Warning, censorship. Warning, censorship.
We're ready to pack up.
No, it doesn't.
I'm just
you
like,
can stay here all night. Doesn't matter.
can you please not touch my vehicle? Why are you touching my vehicle? Why are you touching my vehicle?
Now been served.
At the end of the day, I could have $800,000 in fines and 8 years in prison. But I do feel like these are unjust laws. And I really do believe in the end that we will prevail, and I will not give up this fight. And in fact, now with vaccine passports coming out and such, we're about to step up this fight bigger than we've ever stepped up in Niagara right now.
But it's absolutely egregious that somebody could be facing $800,000 in fines and I suppose 8 years in jail.
For, again, they're exercising their right to freedom of assembly and freedom of expression.
Yes, and if you take a look at how impaired drivers are treated, for instance, I mean, even they don't face that kind of those kinds of punishments.
For Rebel News, I'm Tamara Ugolini, and today I am featuring an outlandish story of yet another egregious enforcement of COVID restrictions onto everyday people opposing tyrannical public health mandates. As part of our Fight the Fines campaign, which provides free legal defense to individuals like the one I'm bringing you today, at no cost to them, when they are faced with constitutionally questionable fines and intimidation by law enforcement for simply exercising their chartered rights. See, we crowdfund their legal fees and then we put them in touch with top-notch legal defense to fight these unprecedented infractions. You know that narrative coming from the mainstream that anyone who so much as questions lockdowns or the unfounded public health mandates imposed on healthy Canadians is a selfish grandma killer? Well, in today's case, that couldn't be further from the truth. Rob Primorano, also known locally in his town of Welland, Ontario, as Rob Primo, is one of the most selfless people I have come across recently. On his own time, Rob does volunteer work locally within the homeless and marginalized community. He gives his time to those less fortunate, not because he is selfish or could care less about their health, but quite the opposite. He truly cares about others and genuinely wants to help. And we know that these communities were the hardest hit, not by COVID-19 necessarily, but by government-imposed restrictions. So when Rob saw just how harmful rolling and indiscriminate lockdowns were to those that he cared for, he knew something had to be done. And so he started connecting with other locals who felt the same. Here's his story. So Rob Primorano, our latest Fight the Fines case, also known as Rob Primo, you have stepped into what was maybe a potential leadership role in the freedom fighting movement in Niagara, the Niagara Falls region. Rob, do you want to give us a brief summary of what made you want to step up into, this leadership role with these protests and things that were happening in your area? And then, how did you end up as one of our Fight the Fines cases?
Yeah, so basically, Tamara, I really felt the need to step up in our region when I seen friends like Alicia Herder doing her part fighting this fight. And I really seen the backlash that she started to take in the community. And she's a wonderful lady. And this is someone that I usually know from attending human trafficking events and doing activism in that department with her. And the media really just made her out to be someone that she's not at all. And I started talking to her about it, and I started seeing photos of her in our local newspapers and journalists around here just covering what was going on and just really drug through the mud. And she finally had a rally in St. Catharines, and over 1,000 people showed up. And at that point, I seen some momentum here in Niagara, and I seen a lot of people that were upset. I seen every day, you go to Tim Hortons and you see how much this has affected the homeless community, people with addictions, and it's just something I wasn't able to walk past and ignore.
Right. You didn't want to stay silent any longer. And just a little bit of background of you as well, because I'm glad you brought up the homeless community. You did a lot of outreach, volunteer work prior to the pandemic. And, once you started to speak out about some of the injustices that you saw happening in your community, what happened?
Well, what happened actually is the first, people get really upset about these anti-lockdown protests. And the first one that I went to, somebody captured an image of me there. And the first thing they did was they contacted a grassroots group in Welland here that I volunteered with a couple times a week. And they let them know that I was at this anti-lockdown protest and I didn't have a mask on, which put these people in a very difficult position because, most of society sees everyone wearing a mask now, and you're kind of considered someone who doesn't care if you're not wearing a mask. So essentially what they did was someone brought a complaint forward, just a regular person from the community. And that ended up making it so I wasn't able to help out with this group anymore. So I ended up hitting the streets independently. And I've been doing my volunteer work that I enjoy doing just by myself now.
That's great. Well, I'm glad that you were able to continue with this work that you feel so important. And it does paint a picture of, this selfish narrative that's being brewed about individuals who protest and maybe don't wear a mask outside, especially. You're the exact opposite of that person. So you basically saw this smear campaign happening, well, to yourself in your volunteer work, but also to some of the more vocal advocates in your area. And then what happened to make you step up into this role to start taking on, more of the organization of some of these rallies?
Well, what I've seen happen is Alicia got charged and another good friend of mine got charged, Cullen around here. And what happened is, you see in mainstream media, they make the headlines and you would just see underneath all the comments, all the negativity and all the bad things people were saying. And, everyone seems to be so indoctrinated by mainstream media. They don't realize the fight these people are taking on. They don't realize that these people love society, love people. We're seen by mainstream media as these people who are relentless and just don't care and don't want to wear a mask. And really, that's not the case at all. We care more than anything. We care about suicide rates. We care about canceled surgeries. We care about people who can't get in to get their cancer treatment. We think that all of these issues are just as relative as COVID, if not more.
Mm-hmm, absolutely. Now, without the Fight the Fines initiative, you have 8 summonses to court, which could mean, in excess of $100,000 of tickets and or 1 year per summons of imprisonment. Like, what does that mean for someone like you?
For someone like me, that means something. I'm going to be honest. It is intimidating, but it's not intimidating at the same time, if that makes sense. I know what I'm doing is good work. I know I'm fighting for the people. And more than anything, I'm fighting for my daughter's future. And I'll never give up on fighting for that. It doesn't matter if it lands me in a jail cell. That's not where I want to be. But I'll do anything to change the way things are right now. This isn't the world I wanted for my child.
Good. How are you? Good. People were going to come here at 1 o'clock, exercise their rights, right? And so it's what now, almost 1:30. So
if you guys want to get me a message out there, do whatever you got to do. Just make sure you don't block the roads. Block the street. Just make sure that as long as people feel comfortable, I have no issue with it.
Absolutely, man. And I appreciate you stopping by and talking to me and addressing that with us all. Thanks, man. Have a good day. Have a good shift. So you're here to keep the peace, and this is a lady from the region.
What was that?
This lady that's here with the ticket is from the region. So why would we talk to her? We don't. She's not a police officer.
Was that? Well, she might be a bylaw officer. I don't know. I didn't speak to her. The other officer did. I don't know. I didn't speak to her personally. So you know, I'm just speaking with her right now.
Okay.
If she wants to give you a ticket, it's up to her. I'm not here to give you a ticket. It's all good. I was just checking how long you guys gonna be here. Just
Okay, yeah, no, like we're ready to pack up.
No, it doesn't.
I'm just
you guys
like,
can stay here all night. Doesn't matter to me.
sorry?
Hi, Robert. How are you?
Hi.
Come on over here.
Okay.
I've got some tickets for you. These are from previous events as well, so it's not all from today, but I'm giving you everything, okay? This is your instructions on how to deal with the courts. You're not actually going to go to court this time around. You're going to call it in or you're going to email it in, okay? Here, take that.
I don't want to take it.
Well, you're getting it either way.
Okay,
So
well, I don't want to take it from you. This is unconstitutional. Do you not agree, officers?
Okay, so the first one here is for a...
Okay, well, I don't want to take those.
Okay, we're going to be served. I'll leave it on your vehicle.
I'm not accepting any of those.
You're served, Robert.
Can you please not touch my vehicle? Why are you touching my vehicle? Why are you touching my vehicle?
Now been served.
Officer, can I talk to you for a second? Is that fair? Because, like, you've been really nice to me. So can I ask you a question from the law point?
Sure.
How can a lady I don't know that did not identify herself show me any type of ID? How can she charge me with something that's not constitutional? Like, how can she charge me with that?
I don't know what the charges are or anything like that. I didn't read any tickets. Like I said, I'm not here to get a ticket, okay?
But can I ask you, respectfully, I'm not trying to be rude.
No.
You're an officer. You take an oath as an officer, right, to protect the constitutional rights. What I'm doing here today and what I've done, a peaceful assembly with the people that are here, do you feel like that's okay? Like, when it comes to Charter of Rights, I have the right to do this, do I not?
Like if you want to protest, I'm not here to tell you that to protest. And if you disagree with any of the tickets, you have the right, like on the back, you have the right to take it to trial. Okay?
I haven't even been served.
Well, it's at the end of the day, it's up to her.
So now this lady that I don't even know is coming. Like, leave me alone. I don't know you. Are you harassing me? Leave me alone. Why are you following me?
You're acting ridiculous.
Why am I acting ridiculous? I don't even know who you are. Get away from me. Get away from me. You're not identified. You're in plain clothing. I don't know who you are.
I'm happy to explain.
Do you know that you have the right to protest in Canada?
I'm happy to explain this to you.
Oh, are you?
Have a nice day. Bye-bye.
You should respect people's rights and freedoms to peacefully assemble.
Okay.
Who knows who you are? Nobody knows who you are.
Because you're within my 6 feet, so get lost.
Get your 6 feet.
Get lost. Okay.
Who are you? Get lost.
Yeah.
Get lost. Get lost. Is that how the region teaches you to deal with
You
people?
just chased me across the street.
Chased you.
Yeah,
Well, there's two fucking officers here. If I chased you, they would have been on top of me. They would have been on top of me.
Not asking for any sort of identification.
She didn't ask me for identification. She didn't give me identification. And I got police here as my witness. And I don't want that to happen to you guys, but nobody else here got charged.
Nope.
Now, Rob, what has this done for you? Has this intimidated you out of protesting? What's an update with what's going on in your life now?
This has not intimidated me out of protesting. When this first happened, it's a little bit of a mental game. It hits you. Wow, at the end of the day, I could have $800,000 in fines and 8 years in prison. But I do feel like these are unjust laws. And I really do believe in the end that we will prevail, and I will not give up this fight. And in fact, now with vaccine passports coming out and such, we're about to step up this fight bigger than we've ever stepped up in Niagara right now. We have some things in the work, and we're not going to be stopping. We're going to be getting louder. Mm-hmm. It's time for the people to stand together. And the only way we're going to get through this is through unity, love, and just bringing the pressure forward all together.
Mm-hmm. On that note, just in wrapping things up, do you have a message for anyone who may feel the same way, but be too afraid to speak up and stand up alongside any of these other freedom movements?
My message is to reach out to people. Send people an inbox. If you wanted to send me an inbox, you're more than welcome to send me an inbox. It starts with the mask in the store. You know, a lot of people don't want to wear a mask in the store, but they're scared they're going to actually get a fine from bylaw for not wearing a mask. I haven't worn a mask this whole time. I haven't had one ticket. I haven't had one bylaw officer threaten me with a ticket over the mask. It's just something that isn't enforced. And the most important things the most important thing as a Canadian today is to remember your rights, and that we do have rights that protect us.
Thank you, Rob. I appreciate your time this morning, and stay tuned as we fight your fine.
Thanks for having me, and thanks for fighting my fine.
I always love to hear from people who have a moral compass and the integrity to stand up for what they feel is right and just, despite ongoing intimidation tactics imposed by those just following orders. Rob isn't some hardened criminal, and he certainly does not deserve to face jail time or hundreds of thousands of dollars worth of fines for standing up and speaking out against injustices that he was seeing with his own eyes. So, as part of our civil liberties initiative called, again, Fight the Fines, we have put Rob in touch with Jenna Little, who is taking on his case. Jenna gives us an update and shares her thoughts on Rob's case. Have a listen.
All right, so we'll get right into Robert's case here. He, like we're finding many other of these Fight the Fines cases, has compounding infractions. So Robert, from what I gather, has received 8 summons, Jenna, and these hold with them very intimidating fines. Can you speak to that?
Yeah, so Robert attended, or supposedly attended, 4 different rallies or protests, and each time he attended, he was given 2 separate summons, one under the Emergency Management and Civil Protection Act, and one under the Reopening Ontario Act. Each one comes with a fine of up to $100,000 and up to 1 year imprisonment. Not only is it excessive, but both of the charges are essentially the same thing. They're essentially duplicitous in a way. I mean, the EMCPA is referred to by the Reopening Act within the charges, so it's almost like a double jeopardy in a way, giving him 2 charges for the exact same thing on the same time. I also question the constitutional validity of anything given under the Reopening Ontario Act during a state of emergency, which at this time we can't comment on what that strategy will be, or if we were in fact, a state of emergency at the time. But it's absolutely egregious that somebody could be facing $800,000 in fines and I suppose 8 years in jail.
For, again, they're exercising their right to freedom of assembly and freedom of expression.
Yes, and if you take a look at how impaired drivers are treated, for instance, I mean, even they don't face that kind of those kinds of punishments. They don't face up to 1 year imprisonment for a first offense, the vast majority of the time, and they definitely don't face fines of this proportion.
We still have the constitutional right to freedom of expression and freedom of assembly. Trampling on these enshrined rights needs to be demonstrably justified, and I look forward to the day in court where the government finally has to show their work. For Rebel News, I'm Tamara Ugolini. Thank you to our generous donors for making it possible for us to take on Robert's case. If you appreciate the work that the Rebel is doing to fight fines at no cost to the people advocating for those most vulnerable, please consider donating to our initiative at fightthefines.com. Your donation is now considered a charitable donation through the registered charity called the Democracy Fund. You can find out more and donate if you're able to at that website, again, fightthefines.com.